What's up? Good evening, good afternoon. Is it good evening? It is good evening. It's 6 o'clock. Good evening. I am your host, Shannon Hughes of the See Us podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We've been going pretty strong since 2019. This is a podcast where we highlight the voices of the invisible, of the unheard, otherwise, the folks who either we don't hear about in mainstream media, or when we do hear about our folks, it's always derogatory or the story is skewed. People's voices are otherwise not being highlighted in the way that they feel is fit. So we are here. Started out focusing on stories of police violence, particularly police violence in Allegheny County, and specifically because I did a lot of gun violence prevention and police brutality prevention, whatever work, police community relations work, and I honestly I just got tired of hearing the police say that there's no such thing as police violence in Allegheny County. Like what? And so it was a constant battle. We didn't get past step one because there was no acknowledgement that it just exists and it's just a reality. So myself, along with our first round of summer camp students, devised the CS podcast. The kids did an amazing job creating this podcast, and I've been keeping it up in their honor and in our honor since then. Since we got it started, we did branch out to be all encompassing when it comes to invisible voices and invisible people, because we recognize pretty early on, especially even if you're talking about something like policing, it's systemic. And systems, as the word suggests, are nothing happens isolated, independently. Everything is connected. So the things that happen in education and healthcare, employment, like community, et cetera, all of those things are connected, both the good, bad, and the ugly, and extremely good. So we cover all of those things. Really quickly, before we get into our topic today, which is wild, quite frankly, to me, that Gateway has had such an interesting year. But before we get to that, I just want to share with y'all, because been going, pretty strong since 2019. Y'all been rocking with us since then and made a lot of amazing things happen for our guests who come on the show, and I really, really appreciate that. I want to thank y'all for being community in that way. Transparently, like there's been multiple times where I feel like I don't really need to do this. Like ain't nobody really checking for this podcast. Like I ain't nobody. I'm Shannon. I'm small potatoes. I don't really mean nothing. And this podcast doesn't really mean anything. But every time I feel that way, something happens. Someone reaches out. Something needs to be covered. Like someone needs to be seen and heard. And there's intention for them not to be heard. And so like every time I have these feelings like there's no real reason for me to be here, there's something that's validating our reasons to continue to be here and hold this space, because there is no space that's holding for the people, right? Definitely not mainstream media. Definitely not at all. So I just wanted to acknowledge that we're going to keep going, and not only are we going to keep going, I'm going to take it more seriously and put more time and energy into this space, because it is valuable. It has been valuable to all of our guests who've come on the show. A quick shout out to Teron Lester and his family, his mother Nicole, who has been an absolute champion for her baby. He is still fighting the ridiculous charge. If you want to check back on some previous episodes, 15-year-old child was held at ACJ with some wild circumstances. So definitely check that out if you are unfamiliar. But shout out to them. Shout out to Brandy Blackman for connecting me with the young lady who is joining us today. So with that all being said, today we're going to be focusing on a situation that happened in Gateway School District, which, as I said earlier, Gateway has shown up a lot. I'm not sure if y'all remember a few months back, there was in one of the schools in Gateway District, there was a man who was found in the girls' bathroom in one of the schools, and he was there for up to 45 minutes before anyone knew he was there. And it was one of the students, thankfully, went and told someone that he was there. But he was there. There were little girls going in and out. That entire time, the school is locked down. It should be locked. Like parents aren't allowed to get into the school during the day. But this man was able to get in and kind of just hang out and do God knows what. And so that's sticking in the front of my mind, and some other circumstances, but that most prominently. And that wasn't that long ago. And then here we are again with some interesting circumstances in this district, which makes me wonder, like, what's happening? I get it. Like, are they just having a bad year, or is there like a problem with the way that they manage things? Like, is there a gap in their systems? Is it the way that they're caring for particularly Black and Brown students? Is it all of the students who are not necessarily as protected as they need to be? Because like that's not a small thing, and neither is the circumstances that we are here for today. Young man, and I'll let his mom tell the story in full. But a young man was essentially drugged at the school by another student, and for some reason, no one reached out to mom and said like, "Hey, like this happened." It doesn't, to my knowledge, to date, there has not been any police reports filed. It seems very much like there's not too much being done about this child. Like, luckily, he's okay and recovered from the effects of the drugs he was unwittingly doped with. But that could have gotten really really bad. So I'm going to bring on his mother, who has been such a champion for her son, and being very clear about how severe this circumstance is. It's not something to be like, oh, like kids will be kids. Like, no, kids don't drug people. I've never been drugged in my life. like that's not a thing that kids just do. Like this is a pretty serious situation. So I'm gonna bring Ms. Raven Palmer on. Hey, Raven, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we get into the nitty and the gritty, where are you from?
I'm from the Lorimer area.
Warmer. Okay, word. Okay. And how many you have? Of course, your son. Is he your only child, or do you have any other children?
No, I have 4 biological boys and 1 stepson.
Oh, all boys.
Unfortunately, all boys, and I have all brothers as well from my mom. So I'm
Word.
the only girl all around.
How is that life?
Terrible.
Mm.
It gets fun and sweet, but it's not so fun on a daily.
Hey, I feel you. I got 4 brothers. I'm the only girl. Though I don't have that carried into my adulthood, I feel you in life.
Yeah.
It's a struggle.
Yes, got bodyguards all around, all ages.
Nah, that's the good part.
Yes, it is.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So your son, who had this unfortunate circumstance, that's Philip, right?
Yes,
And how old is Philip?
he's 12.
12. Oh,
Yes, yes, he is. He's a big 12. He's 168 pounds.
oh, okay, Philip.
Yes.
What grade is he in?
He's in the 7th grade.
Word up, word up. Does he have a favorite subject or favorite thing to do in school?
He is in band and he's in choir, so that's really what he likes to do in school. But outside of school, he's a chef. He's cooking right now, so he
Oh,
loves cooking from scratch.
okay, Philip. Where
Yes.
you learn how to cook?
His godmother. Since he was 5 years old, he has been cooking and cleaning.
Oh, so he
Yeah,
sounds like such an amazing young man.
he is. He is.
That's what's up. That's what's up. All right. So, tell me. Now, I feel like I know very little about how all this transpired, but also I feel like there might. Well, I feel like there's a lot to be known, but I'm curious about how much is being disclosed. So, can you tell us just like what happened?
So, last week, my son, he came home and I'm sitting right where I was whenever he came home, and I look over and my baby is, when I say he's sweating like he was fresh out of the shower and did not wipe his face off, he was sweating that bad. I'm like, do you got a headache? Like, what's wrong? He's like, my stomach just hurts. Like, I'm just a little dizzy. I'm like, okay, but I've been in the medical field for over 10 years. So I'm very familiar with like overdoses and things like that. And the with what's going on in the world, I educate myself. So instantly I'm looking at him and I'm like, you don't look right. This isn't just a regular stomach, virus or a headache. And I'm like, you know what? Sit down for a minute. And he's sitting and I'm trying to, pay attention. And my brother, he's here too. So I'm paying attention, but, I'm being a mommy, taking care of all the other kids and stuff. And then I hear them talking. And he's like, you took what? And my son was like, some girl, she gave me 2 mints at school. He's like, I'll put one in my mouth and I'll put it in my pocket. I have the other one to show you what it is. So he goes upstairs and he comes back downstairs. And it's a little small white pill. And it has 54777, I want to say 2 on the pill. And instantly I jump into mommy mode because, like I said, I've been in the medical field. And there is no mint that is given in the stores that have numbers on it. Okay, baby. And I'm like, okay, oh my God. I look up the pill. I'm sorry, that's my 3-year-old in the background. I Google this pill and it comes up as Burfine, 2 big words, but it's Suboxones. I immediately call the school. I speak to Mr. Jack, which is the principal, the middle school principal. And he's like, okay, well, we'll just have Phillip point the student out tomorrow. You're going to, in the world that we live in now, I'm not saying that I care or not, but the world that we are living in today, you want my son to be a snitch. You want him to point the student out and then risk getting into more issues or whatever the case may be. So at this time, I'm on the phone with Mr. Jack. My son he's still throwing up. I told him, put my hoodie on, but go outside, take a bottle of water so he can cool down. And, he's just running in and out, throwing up. So I'm just like, you know what? I got to call 911. I contacted the ambulance. The police never came. They never came with the ambulance, how they usually do. So they had my son in the hospital for about 4 or 5 hours by this time. And they only did an EKG. They didn't try to flush my son. They didn't try to, I'm sure there's medication where you can give them and they start puking. But you didn't hook him up to any type of fluids to pump him out or anything. So I'm like, you know what? You guys aren't even taking this serious. And I hate to say it like this, but as if it was a white kid. If it was a white kid, they would have made sure. They would have did what they had to do to make sure that whatever was in this baby's system was flushed out. Now, we can fast forward to the next day, which they had a plumbing issue. Ironically, they had a plumbing issue. No, wait, let's backtrack. In Gateway School District, whenever it's a snowy day, they'll call our phone 8, 9, 10 at night. No school or a 2-hour delay. No phone call, no emergency phone call was sent out to the families after Mr. Jack was informed. And this was before 4 o'clock, so school was not even technically closed yet for the teachers. No phone call was sent out, not even a letter. Now let's go to the next day. A plumbing issue was going on. They couldn't flush the toilets, whatever the case may be. So the investigation was delayed. Now, the next day, I took my son up to the school. And, I'm speaking to Mr. Jack, and he stated they're going to figure out what student he was supplied this with, and they're going to see if that student was supplied from another student. They just automatically jump to, oh no, she couldn't have been this student that was the supplier. So after, we were in the meeting, he let me know he did try to get in contact with this student's parents, but they're not returning phone calls. So I'm like, okay, I waited all day to get an update. The next day, I was informed that the student was signed out of school permanently.
She signed herself out, or the
The
school?
parents, the parents signed this 7th grader out of school.
Okay. And then what did the school do?
They just informed me that she was the one that gave my son the pills, and everything that he stated was true. And they found out. Well, I guess the girl told them that she wasn't the one that had the pills. Someone gave her the pills. So he's like, oh, and we're going to find out who supplied her. But there's no word on where she went. There's no word on the parents or anything. He's like, oh, I got good news. Your son won't have to be around her no more.
That's beside the point,
There's
isn't it?
there's no good news in this at all. And let's not speak on how the next day when my son was hospitalized, I called 911 again and I requested for the police to come to my home so I can make a police report. The dispatcher, asked what the reason was. And I explained. She said, oh, this is a school matter. I'm going to take your information. I'm going to take your name and your number, and I'll give it to the school police, and they should get in contact with you. The same thing Mr. Jack said to me. And still, to this day, not Monroeville, Pitcairn, or Gateway Police have gotten in contact with me.
Wow, that's insane. Well, first of all, this girl knowingly drugged your son,
Knowingly and
admitted to drugging your son, and she was allowed to sign herself out of school. Essentially, her parents signed her out of school. Now, whether she stayed in school or not is irrelevant because she knowingly drugged someone. That doesn't mean that's the end of it. Like, I don't see how that's the end of it. I know, kids who have gotten felony charges for less.
Yeah.
From school.
Yep. So, and now, like I said, once again, I'm going to say it again. I hate to say it like this, but if my son was white, or if I was white, I wouldn't have had to contact the news. They would have contacted the news. If the roles were vice versa, because she's a white girl. So if the roles were a little different, it would have been completely different.
I hate to say it, but I mean it is also what it is. That's likely to be the case because I've never you just never see so many attempts to shield somebody from accountability, unless they're white or anybody that's not black. Quite frankly, let's keep that a being.
Yeah.
There's so much space for understanding. There is so much, like there's so many excuses for why this horrible, horrendous thing happened, but there's no accountability when the body is not black. When the body is black, there is no accountability to protect that body. Your son is like, I mean, that could have been really, really bad. Like if your son was allergic to whatever it is that the random thing that he was given, like the drugs he could have overdosed. And the fact that none of the police departments, like you're in Monroeville, so like there's 17 different police departments that could have responded at all, like, and none of them, particularly the school police, have yet to reach out to you.
Right.
In school is well aware. It's not like it's a secret.
Right. It's all over the news. So it's just, it's sad at this point. It's sad. There's no other word to describe it but being sad. Because it's like you're just boldly. Racism is still alive. That's all I'm going to say. Racism is just still alive. It just is what it is.
To this point, so I know when it happened, has the school reached out to you?
No.
And giving you any updates?
No.
So every communication, every instance of communication that you've had with the school has been you reaching out to the school?
Yes, or me going to the school. Mr. Jack has contact. No, I'm sorry. No. Dr. Short, the superintendent. The day that I spoke to the news and they interviewed me was the only day that he contacted me. And the only reason why so I was speaking to, I believe her name was Jennifer from the news. She called me. She said, I'm coming through the Squirrel Hill tunnels now. I'm going to Gateway Middle School to meet with Dr. Short to interview him. And then I'm coming to you. I say about 5 to 7 minutes after I got off the phone with her, I'm getting a phone call from Dr. Short. I have not spoke with Dr. Short, not once. He hasn't contacted me to see if my son was okay or anything. This is the superintendent that we're speaking about. So after Jennifer contacted him to tell him she's coming to interview him, I get a phone call from Dr. Short. Oh, hey, how's Phillip doing? I just wanted to let you know that we're taking this matter pretty serious. Are you?
Hmm.
Because I would have got a phone call, not just well, no, I didn't even receive a phone call. That's the thing. I didn't. I would have been speaking to Mr. Jack. You would have reached out and made it, even if you didn't, care, you put no effort in to even act like you did.
Wow. And the only time you've heard was when the news was showing up. And
That's
then
the
you got a
only
phone
time.
call.
That's the only time I spoke to him, and I haven't spoke to him after.
Someone had asked in the comments, how does your son feel about returning to the school?
He he has a lot of friends. He loves school. He
Hmm.
loves school. Like, he's the kid on a snowy day. I'll be like, baby, you can stay home if you want to. And he's like, no, mom, I want to go to school. He wants to. And, um, I was speaking to a friend of mine because my son is now being mistreated. A teacher is, you could tell she's upset because how she called me, even the tone of her voice, she's, oh, your son thinks he's the teacher. Well, a student was in my son's assigned seat. They have assigned seats. A student was in my son's assigned seat. When he came in, he's like, hey, you got to sit over there. There's a empty seat. This is my seat. She's like, oh, you think you're a teacher? You can't tell him what to do. Okay, whatever. That's strike one. Now, you're taught in school, no question is a dumb question. My son, kept asking questions. Oh, shut up. You're asking stupid questions. I have never had to deal with that in Gateway from a student. I mean, from a teacher. Never.
Hmm.
Now, ironically, Gateway's in the news, and now you're talking to my son like that. And I was told to pull him from school. And I thought about it and I pondered, because at the end of the day, as a mother, it don't matter what your race is, what your color is, it doesn't matter. As a mother, when your son or your daughter is being mistreated, you're going to go in mommy mode. But it's like, when I talked to him and we just came out of COVID, so he's like, Mom, I don't want to homeschool. I don't want to do that. But how I raised my son, he's going to speak up. He's going to tell me what's going on. So in my heart, my baby is okay. He's safe. You know, he knows if I tell my mom, she's going to do something. If I tell my mom something's happened, my mom's going to get to the bottom of it. So I'm a he's okay. I'm okay.
Word. I just want to just kind of sit with the fact that your son loves school. Like everyone seems to love him. He has his friends there. Like he's excited about school, and so it's so unfortunate that he would have to have such an experience, not only with being drugged and not being protected by the adults who are charged with his care, but now it's sounding like there's retaliation on behalf of the school via the teachers. Has he had any sort of like animosity or weird interactions prior to this with the teachers?
No, the teachers love my son.
Mm.
They, like, since he has been in Gateway, always getting good compliments. Now, as kids still have their days where they're talking too much, or, you know, being the class clown, things like that. But nothing suspended from school. He's never been suspended off the bus. Things like that. He's a good kid all around. He's the oldest of all my children. And it's like, even with his brothers, now everybody knows how brothers and sisters relationship, even down to his brothers. He's just a good kid. So
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But also, I think it's important to name that should your son start to experience microaggressions from the teachers, undue, being targeted any sort of way, that it's going to be very clear that it's retaliation,
Yeah.
right? Like from the teacher that you had mentioned here, from the superintendent, or Mr. Short, or whoever, Dr. Short, and anybody else in the school. Like, should they start treating your son differently because he has a history of not being treated any sort of way, and a history of not doing anything to be treated any sort of way?
Right.
That starting with this teacher who is like, nitpicking and bugging with your son, and not validating his very real, claim, like, this person's in my seat.
Hmm.
From that point, because it already happened on, everything is very clear to be a microaggression in retaliation for your son for something that happened to him. Like,
Right.
he is a victim of.
Right. It's not something like, hey, I'm gonna do this and tell mommy and act like there is video footage. It's not he say, she say. It's video. There's video footage of what happened.
And someone had mentioned that the media is telling a different story. I know a reporter from KDKA had covered this, which is how we kind of got connected. Are you, what is the mainstream media saying about the circumstance?
They're saying that my baby basically had an anxiety attack. And he couldn't. Now I don't know, like, if there's like a certain rule with content, because I do still have the pill that he almost digested. Would we get in trouble if I show that on there or anything?
I know that I'm here for it.
Okay, so where is my purse? My little one got into it and I had to hurry up and do an emergency move. Okay, here it is. I'll let you know what. I'll put it up. So let's see. I put it up really quick. I'm short. Sorry, you guys gotta excuse me. And my entertainment is very tall. Baby, could you get the chair for? I'll get it. But so the news is saying that my son was having an anxiety attack. He could not have, since he didn't digest the pill, he couldn't have had symptoms like that. Now, this specific Suboxone, all you got to do, it's made to get put under your tongue and it dissolves. The pill, whenever I show you it, it wasn't just I put it in my mouth. I seen it, I tasted it, and it was immediately spit out. You can tell he had it in his mouth, probably swished it around a little bit. Thank you, baby, and spit it out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now here's the pill. I don't. Can I turn the camera around? No, I'll just hold it. Now, if you see, I'll just try to put it on something dark. So if you see, could you see good? Like you could just tell like it
Has
was wet.
veggies.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it got wet. Now they were saying, oh, he didn't, you know, digest it, so there's no way that he could have had effects from the pill. How could you tell me? And this was from a toxicologist.
That doesn't even make sense.
It,
That makes no sense. And I did see, for the record, there's a picture of the pill on the report that I can't think of the lady's name, but from KDKA who covered it.
Jennifer.
That's Jennifer. It's on her Facebook page. So and we shared it in the Narrative Justices Facebook group and on the page. So if you look, you can see the pill quite clearly that it's dissolved, that it has degraded. Therefore, the contents of the pill was ingested. And so for the child to have the symptoms that he had, it makes more sense that it would be from the pill. And let me ask this first, because I don't know. Has your son, does he struggle with anxiety or anything like that? Has he ever had an anxiety attack?
Never.
Any sort of mood disorder?
Never. The only thing my baby has is G6PD deficiency. He can never consume aspirin. He can never eat fava bean. It's an Indian bean. He cannot be around mothballs, and he can never drink distilled water. And he also has alpha thalassemia trait. It's something like sickle cell. You know how sickle cell, your white blood cells are like a C. Well, his aren't completely like a C, but it's not how it's supposed to be.
Okay.
So just say if there was a little small amount of aspirin in that pill, this would have been a different type of podcast. You get what I'm saying?
That's heavy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and it just angers me when I think about that, because it's like you're not taking this serious, because we all know they take different medications to make one medication,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, it's just really upsetting.
Yeah. I mean, the child could have given your son an aspirin and thought it was a joke. It could have been literally anything.
Yeah.
And that could have been, this could be a really, really tragic story.
Okay.
And we're not, it's just like, I'm trying to wrap my head around how the district is not taking it seriously at all. The fact that this young lady was able to skip off into the sunset, and her parents, mind you, it's not like the kid can get a prescription on her own.
Right.
You know, the parents weren't questioned. They called, and that was the end of it.
Yep, they tried to get in contact with the parents, and the parents weren't returning phone calls. That's
Like,
what I heard about the parents.
how is that not? And I'm not, I'm not pretending to know what all the little codes are, or whatever. But how is that not reckless endangerment?
Sounds about right to me.
Like, how is it not a list of different charges? Like, and again, I can't help but I've witnessed folks go down for way less,
Yeah.
and
You
the
would
fact that
think,
they're able to just disappear.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but you would think, like I keep saying, if the roles were reversed, there would be a warrant out for parents. You signed your baby out of school, and now you just trying to go ghost. No, we're going to catch you. But like I said, we're not light enough for them to
Mm-hmm.
move that way.
Mm-hmm. Right, and then is it that it's thought that other kids were given pills?
Yes, there was another student that was given medication.
So this isn't even an isolated incident. This is like multiple kids were drugged. Multiple kids were drugged.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing about this. Now, in the middle school, there's metal detectors. This baby brought these pills in a metal container. Now, if they would make every single student go through the metal detectors instead of saying, up you go, up you go, up you go, this would have never happened, because once she walked through the metal detectors and that metal container went off, they would have had to check it, because it was a Santa Claus metal container,
Hmm.
and it would have never happened. So
Hmm.
it's just like lack around. It's just lack.
Yeah, negligence, and
Yeah, negligence.
and just so I'm clear, so not all the students go through the metal detector.
No, my son said they pick basically like every 5 students that come in.
It does not defeat the purpose. And I'm nobody's expert on metal detectorology or whatever, but I just feel like that defeats the purpose
Yeah, it
clearly.
it does.
That's insane. Really quickly, someone said that that's literally the school to prison pipeline. Whoever that is, it doesn't show. If you can clarify what you're meaning by it, because I'm not sure if I'm understanding it, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear on what that comment is. Because if it's regarding, like, like the parents and the child who drugged Raven's son, then I don't connect those things, because this is literally like this, people were drugged, so somebody has to be held accountable for that. Like, that's not okay, whatever that looks like. But someone should be held accountable, mainly the parents, because again, that child is not going to nobody's CVS, pull out a prescription. That's just not happening. Um, so who is this? Someone said she got it from her parents. See how it made them act. Intentionally gave it to him to see his reaction. Possibly, possibly. And this is a kid. It could have been like the most innocent thing. The little girl like could have thought it was funny, or she could have. It could have been malicious. It could have been malicious, and she could have did that on purpose. Right? We don't know, because the child apparently was never interviewed. And if she was interviewed, I'm not hearing that's been disclosed. Am I correct?
Never told if she was. And then my thing with it is, it's like you don't think that you want to keep tabs on this baby because whatever school she go to can happen again.
Hmm. And beyond her, the parents again who just got pills accessible to a seventh grade child. Like
Yep.
this can happen in the school, outside of the school, like anywhere. This could really very much happen again. So it's like it's just blowing my mind that they just like disappeared into the night. And the school was like, oh well, at least your son doesn't have to deal with it anymore. He wasn't being bullied.
Right.
Like what does that mean?
And it's just like for him to say it like that, well, good news is, okay, sir.
Wild.
But
Um, I'm so sorry that you and your son, your family has had to weather this, but I'm so thankful that it's not a more tragic story. I'm so thankful for that because it could have easily have gone so bad.
yes, and I appreciate that. It could have been a different story all around. School to prison police and practices that makes person.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you for offering that clarification. I just wasn't sure where you were placing it, so I know generally with the the term meant, but I wasn't sure exactly where you were placing it. So I appreciate this clarification. They said the school to prison pipeline is policies and practices that makes Black students get punished 3 times harder than their white counterparts. In this situation, there is literally no disciplinary action for an action Black kids get sent to jail for, and that's absolutely the point. So thank you so much for adding that and emphasizing that clarification there, because yeah, like period. That's absolutely what's going on here. And again, this is not a small thing, and it's clear that the district is trying, and the school is trying to sweep it under the rug, like like kids will be kids. Like,
Yeah.
up, like that's just well, the kid's gone now, so it's out of our hands. And it's like we know for a fact that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
For a fact, we know that's not the case.
I'm not going to stop until it gets to the bottom of where it came from, what you're going to do, where we're going to go forward. It's just, like I told you the other day, I don't care if it takes me 2 years. At the end of the day, I'm going to be that person of maybe why they make every single student walk through the metal detectors, or you never know, but there has to be some type of change. It has to be.
Right. So this can't happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Your children, the other children, because again, it wasn't even just your son that was dosed. Perhaps your son got the worst of it. It sounds like, but the fact that that happened, and it's kind of just like, like,
Right. Oh well.
and again, just to note this again in Gateway, just a few months ago, there was a grown man, and I believe he had a knife or a switchblade or something, was found in the girls' bathroom and have been found to be there for 45 minutes before he was discovered, before a young lady went and told somebody. There was girls in and out of there. And that's not even the only thing that Gateway has happened in Gateway's district. So this is relatively concerning. Well, it's significantly concerning for me that these things keep happening in this particular district.
I appreciate that.
So,
It just says Facebook user, so I can't say names or anything. But whoever that was, I really appreciate it because, like I was telling Shannon, when you don't have that education, and I'm not, ashamed to say it because I never had to go through this. No parent should have to go through this. But when you have educated people behind you that know where to go, know what to do, who to speak to, and how to go about it, it puts you at ease because, like I said, before you came in my life and was like, look, this is what I'm going to do, I'm like, I'm just going to keep on calling the cops because that's all that I know. I'm going to keep making police reports, or I'm going to keep going to the school, or I'm going to make some type of noise solo. And you can't be that loud when you're one person.
Mm,
So, like I said, I appreciate everybody that's on here, that's tuning in, and that is willing to help me be a louder voice.
absolutely. And again, big shout out to Brandy Blackman. Brandy is such a supporter of people. Like she is here for people, especially people who are being mistreated. How I came to meet Brandy, she came on the show actually advocating for her daughter. And Brandy is nobody to play with. Let me tell you, like she was here for her baby, and she got what was owed and deserved for her daughter for her care.
She was calling and texting me, "Did you get an update? What's going on? Did you talk to Shannon? All right, call me if you need me." Or I'm like, you know what? And I've never seen this woman a day in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and I've only communicated with her because it is, and it's just like, in the world, this is what we need. You gonna say hi?
Right.
Say hi. This is what we need. We need people that's like, you know what, I'm going to inbox her, and because the world we live in, it's like, oh, my inbox is growing. I might get a nasty reaction. Oh, why are you in my business? I don't even know you. That type of thing. But we need more of that. We need someone that's like, look, I know what to do. I know who to talk to. I'm about to hop in her inbox and let her know what. I'm sorry. I'm just
You're
a
fine.
jungle gym now. But we just need more people like you guys.
Oh yeah, I mean it is like there's nothing. Well, I could say this about me. There's everything special about Brandy, but there's nothing special about me. It's just the intention. You know what I mean? Like when I see other people, I see my people. Like and that's black, white, blue, polka dot. If you're my folk, you're my folk. Like if a person is being mistreated, then we're supposed to stand up for each other.
Right.
Supposed to look out for each other. Like that's law. You know what I mean? Like and to your point, I mean, you can do a lot. You can do a lot of significant work advocating on your own, like showing up, filing the police reports or whatever. Like that does make a difference. But there is no power like the power of the people. There is no power like the power of the people. And that's that as I said earlier. Like that's why this podcast is here. That's why it will continue to be here, making sure that we all have space and voice, where other folks are trying to erase us, trying to invalidate us, trying to disappear us. No, we hold our own space and we come together. But it does take for us to hear each other's stories, to bear witness to each other, and also show up when we need to show up. So to that, someone asked, what's needed to move the pen. So what's needed to move forward? I'm going to ask you, where are things right now? And are there particular actions that you could see that would be helpful for the community to do?
Um, I mean, I just say stick together and be that person. Honestly, I don't know what's next. I don't know where to go. I don't know. And one thing that I did see on the comments, the lovely Katie K comments, oh, she's just doing this for a lawsuit. Now, let me say this. It's never about the money, because at the end of the day, if I would have lost him, I would have lost my life. I would have lost myself.
Mm.
It's not about no money. It's not about none of that. Somebody else's baby can get this pill and die. It's about making a change. Even if it's a small change, it's about making a change. But yes, if I'm going to have to sue and take somebody's head off in the process, yes, I will. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. And that's just what it is. The nurse, when my son went to the nurse and expressed, I don't feel well. My son isn't one of them students that go to the nurse to get out of class and make it up. If my son goes to the nurse, there's something wrong.
So wait, your son went to the nurse before he went home?
Yes, I left that part out. After about a half an hour to an hour after my son can, put the pill in his mouth, he went to the nurse. He
What?
went to the nurse and she let him rest for 30 minutes. Now I have two other children in Gateway. If my 5-year-old scrapes his little knee on during recess, I get a phone call. You didn't give me a phone call when you see my son, because he had to have the same symptoms that he had, because he took that around, I want to say 1 o'clock. He gets home around 3. So he had to have the same symptoms that he had when he came home. You
And I,
let you just let him rest. You didn't give me a phone call. You didn't ask me, do you want to take him? Do you want to pick him up? So it's just like, the nurse should be responsible. The police should be responsible, because not even responsible, but y'all need to be held accountable for the actions you did not take. Like, it's just, even down to the hospital. You didn't flush my son. You wanted to observe him.
you're little. I'm listening, but he's too cute.
And he puts my god baby's glasses on. But you just observed him. You didn't flush him. You didn't take this as if it was a life or death situation, when in all actuality you should have, because my son, only medication he ever consumed was Tylenol for a headache.
Mm-hmm.
He was never admitted to the hospital and given any type of medication. So this medication is super foreign to his body.
Mm-hmm.
Anything could happen. They're like, oh, well, we're going to observe him for 12 to 24 hours. I'm like, okay, so, he's staying overnight. Oh, no, we're going to release him at 11 o'clock. This was about 9 o'clock already. You need some tissue? So it's just like, what were you really doing besides trying to rack up his insurance? Because we all know that's what they do. What were you doing that I couldn't do? I had other kids to tend to. So I'm just like, I'm going to take him home and I'm going to doctor my baby up. I'm going to flush him. I'm going to give him Pedialyte. I'm going to go to the store and buy the things that I know that is going to make him go to the bathroom more than often. Besides just let him lay there and see if he has some type of reaction. Because that's what they basically did. They basically let my baby sit there until they feel that, oh, we need to hit him with the Narcan or anything. So there is a lot of people that need to be held accountable.
Oh yeah.
And need to be on the news to be exposed to this, because these are the people that we give our children to and say, our babies are safe. I know my baby's safe. I know nothing's going to happen to my baby. But in all actuality, that's not true. That's not the case.
Yeah, that's wild that your son, before he even made it home, saw the nurse. Like he knew he was sick before he came home. And again, like your son had a certain medication. So if the drug that he was given without his knowledge or consent happened to have aspirin in it, and the nurses was like, all right, well,
Yeah.
like the child, like God forbid he might not have made it home.
Right.
And then the fact that he was just went away after 30 minutes, he couldn't have gotten any better or looked any better than he was.
Exactly.
Even if he didn't look worse, he couldn't have looked any better.
Right. And even the day after, he still had little symptoms. His stomach would feel queasy, or he would feel like he had to puke, or he had a headache.
So it's pretty severe.
Yes.
These pills.
Hey, stop it.
And I wanna go back to what you said about the folks in the comments, and I could get I'm just gonna speculate who those folks were. But that whole like, oh, you just want it for the insurance money or for the payout or for the whatever the thing is. And it's been my experience that folks will say that, like the police and all will say that, like, oh, you just want your 15 minutes of fame. Oh, like you got what you wanted, and thinking that like it's like our lives are only worth like the pennies and the crumbs that they throw at us.
Right.
Like your child, your baby, like your baby's life is worth whatever crumbs that might come out of something or to be on the news, and that's important to us.
Right. And not to cut you off, but I screenshotted it. There is I don't know if he's a retired pig carrying firefighter, but one of the comments that he posted was, all kids are just trying to have fun.
What?
I'm like, wow, you're supposed to be somebody that helps save lives, and this is how you view children, or black children, or this is how you like. It's just horrible that people are so comfortable enough to speak like this. on situations that are not a joke
Mm-mm.
at all.
No,
Come on, baby, you're going to get hurt.
it just speaks to like the lack of value folks have for us, which is why it's so important that we not only have value, but we practice value in each other and ourselves, because nobody else is.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else is. You know, that's disgusting. Pitcairn period is an interesting place. Um, Shout out to Allison Calloway. She's been giving them the business for quite.
Long time. Long time.
Oh yeah, and still is. So shout out to her. That's a strong young lady. Um, yeah. So I'm thinking about what can be. Well, before I get to what can be done, where do you think stand right now with the school? Like, what's the last thing that they said to you about this whole situation?
That the student was sent out of school, and they are going to still try to figure out who supplied her, because her story was somebody gave her the pills. So they're going to figure out who the supplier was, and that's that. Not He did not say not once, we're going to figure out, we're still going to interview her, or we're still going to bring her in, or he didn't say any. It was like basically like she just wasn't even in the equation anymore. We're just going to go figure out who gave her the pills.
Wow, wow, that's disgusting.
It is.
That is disgusting.
It is.
So I know this isn't your world, luckily, and unfortunately, it's your world now. Unfortunately, like the folks who know how to at least have like some idea, like what are some steps you can take forward, are folks who have dealt with, like terrible circumstances like this. So I know the first thing I would say that can be done, is to contact Mossad Middle School, and ask them like, what are y'all doing about this investigation with multiple kids were drugged? Why have y'all not followed up with this mother, to check in on her son? Why have the parents of the child who drugged the kids have not been brought in and charges brought, quite frankly, because that is at least reckless endangerment, like at the very least. And I'm sure there's several other things over that, but I am not a police officer, and so I don't get into that. But I know there's more. Um, so at least like I think that's a step one. So for anyone who is wanting to stand and do community and do community in an active way, like the least we can do is take 5 minutes and blow up the phones from our side middle school, for one, so that they know that this mother is not alone, nor is this baby, right? So like any attempts or wantings to target this child, for not dying apparently, like that's not going to be tolerated. It will be seen. But also this mother, this family is not alone, and they are valued. They are valued and loved. So yeah, we can definitely hit them up. Their phone number is 412-373-5830. So that's one thing that can happen. Another thing that I was discussing with Raven is that I'm curious about how many families and students of Gateway have had circumstances not necessarily similar in as far as what happened here with Philip, but just like circumstances that put the kids in harm's way, and the parents and the kids felt like it wasn't dealt with in the best way by the district, or the schools. I'm curious about how many folks have stories like that, because like I said, like I mean, just in passing, I've heard Gateway pop up quite often. Some really serious circumstance. Again, multiple kids were drugged here. Multiple kids were drugged here, and the person who drugged them skipped off in the sunset, and her parents skipped off into the sunset. And there's an attempt to kind of sweep it under the rug. But not too long ago, there was a grown man who was found in a girl's bathroom with a knife or a switchblade. After 45 minutes of being there, someone let him in to that school. It's a locked school. The parents can't get in. But this man did. So I'm just curious about how often this happens. So what we're going to do is, in the narrative justice group, on the narrative justice page, we're going to post a survey, a form. So if you are a parent of Gateway, a previous parent of Gateway, a previous or current student of Gateway, if you do have stories like that, if you wouldn't mind just taking a minute to fill out that form, I would be curious to know how often this happens. Yeah. The other thing I would say, I'm going to mention is someone has said something about an attorney. Is it okay for me to ask, have you thought about or have you sought legal representation in this?
Yes, I've contacted two attorneys. Now, the one that I was, trying to get familiar with is, it just seems like we're just having regular conversations. It's not even like he's like, okay, you have a case, or I'm gonna take the case. So, I mean, if there is anybody that does have like a good attorney in mind or anything like that, I would appreciate if you just like did get that to me. But I mean, I contacted two, but we're not. It's not going anywhere.
Hmm.
It's just like they're asking what happened. I tell them the story, and I don't hear nothing else from them.
Hmm.
So
Gotcha. All right. So if anyone has any recommendations for lawyers, rights lawyers, or otherwise, again, not my area, please do. Raven, is there a method of contact you would like to use? Keep in mind, we can also just give them our email if you'd rather keep, some separation from yourself.
you can reach me on Facebook because it'll pop up if we're not friends. It'll just pop up in the little box or whatever. But you can just my name is Raven Palmer on Facebook as well, so you can just reach me through there. I want to.
Yeah, if anyone has any suggestions on what can be done, would like to reach out and just offer your support, would like to organize something around Raven, her son, the other kids that were drugged, and the kids and parents in general, you can hit her up on Facebook, Raven Palmer. You can find her and hit her inbox there. Raven, is there anything else that you would like to share today? And I do thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. No, I just, like I said, once again, I really appreciate you. I appreciate Brandy, everybody that came on here that, is that tuned in. I just appreciate the help. I appreciate, because, it takes a village. That saying is true, and I stand by it. I don't care what race you are, color you are, where you come from. If it's positive, if it can get us to the next, level, or whatever the case may be, it's appreciated all around. So that's really, really much it.
Yes. Yes, thank you again so much for taking the time out and for dedicating your time to support your son and not letting things be just brushed under the rug. It's not a small thing. It's not okay, and it is important that we continue to not only stand up but to hold truth and speak truth to power. So thank you. We'll keep in touch and moving forward. Like definitely got mine and our support. Absolutely, I'll be calling my side tomorrow. So if y'all are watching, expect my phone call. Make sure you say hello when I do. And if anybody else can hit their line, again, their number is 412-373-5830. All right, and that'll do it for today. Thank you all so much for joining us again for another episode of the See Us podcast. We highlight the voices of the invisible, invisible people, meaning that the folks that you're not going to see on mainstream TV, and if you do, their stories are not likely to be told in the way that they would like to be told. This is important for us to tune in for each other's stories. Because otherwise, like if we're not telling our stories, if we're not tuning into our stories, we're giving our power away. So that'll do it for today. We'll be back next week. Again, if you are interested in supporting Raven, you can do that. You can hit her up on Facebook, Raven Palmer, and then we'll go from there. Otherwise, y'all have a good one.